I think all of us on this Zoom session believe climate change is extremely important for all the reasons we know. The politicians, other than the Democrats are making a big issue of climate change. The Republicans clearly are not. And I've been trying to understand why they are not. So I had an opportunity the other day to be with Congressman Chip Roy, who took Congressman Lamar Smith's place. And Lamar Smith was a total supporter of humans are not the cause of the problem. Chip Roy believes that firmly also. So I asked Chip Roy why the Republicans are remaining silent and not making an issue of this. And he said the reason is that there are two major issues the Republicans are focusing on right now, and that is coronavirus, number one, and number two, the police situation with rioting and police brutality, let me call it that, for lack of a better word. He said with that, this is down on their priority list. Chip Roy and other members of Congress have copies of the presentation that the Right Climate Stuff put together, which I think is excellent because on one page you can get all of the statements associated with the fact that humans are not the cause, and this has been going on for tens of thousands of years. I think it's a fantastic presentation. I say that from the standpoint that I had I'll call it the privilege, but that's not really the case, being in Washington for 11 years, and then in the state of Texas capital political environment for a while, and now in the county local environment. So I've been involved in the political situation for 35 years. And I know that one thing that has to be done to get the attention of members of Congress, it's got to be a really simple statement. It's kind of like Jim Peacock had today in his closing briefing, and Jim stated, Mother Nature is controlling the climate, CO2 emissions are not. And more CO2 is definitely beneficial to Mother Nature's work. So I don't know what else we can do as a group. We can't argue the technical details on both sides with a member of Congress or somebody of political influence. It's got to be, they firmly believe in it like President Trump has done, pulling out of the climate accord. Somebody must have really convinced him that was the case. I don't know who did that, but they did a great job. President Trump, probably 6-9 months ago, and I don't remember the name of the person that he had to look at an objective assessment of this problem that we're looking at. And there was maybe Jim set up a report to the president, and his position was in ad hoc organization was disbanded after a short period of time. So the political environment,
Tom, I think that might have been.
They do not want to get into it right now.
Hey, Tom, it was Professor Will Happer from Princeton University.
Yes, you got it. That's correct.
Climate advisor.
Precisely. I think that we have a clear message, anything from a one-liner to a single page with all the supporting data. The thing is, when members of Congress are not interested in it, it doesn't matter how convincing you are, they're just not going to do it. And to me, everything I can see, and I don't know if anybody else sees the same thing, members of Congress on the Republican side are not interested in this subject right now.
I had a dinner with Congressman Bergman, 1st District of Michigan. I'm in northern Michigan in the summer, and told him the story of climate change. It's natural climate change. The sun's in control, not carbon dioxide. I've studied this issue for a number of years, and back in my GM days, back in the 1970s, we studied global cooling because the word was out that soot from cars would cool the globe. So we had assigned a scientist to look at that issue, and I visited with Dr. Keeling out in Hawaii and another person at NOAA talking about those issues. But nevertheless, the congressman was very keen in listening to what I had to say to him about climate change. He said he'll invite me. Apparently there's a bipartisan climate change solutions committee in Congress. He said he'd have me talk in front of that group. I never got to it, okay? And recently I found that Congressman Bergman is sponsoring legislation to fund capturing CO2 from coal-fired plants. And I sent him an email immediately and said, that's a complete waste of time and waste of dollars. So it's a very difficult situation with respect to Congress. And let's discuss, please, how to overcome this inertia by the Republican Party. What do we do?
There has been a lot of effort within DOE to look at nuclear energy as an alternative. Now, I have always been kind of tongue-in-cheek saying fine, because they're looking at how to sequester carbon, how to do all these other mitigating things. But the problem that has always been there is we're looking at nuclear. I mean, I kind of look at this on a global sense, but I kind of look at it in an overarching sense of our need to protect the grid, our need to have energy, and fossil fuels are key to that. And that going to the future, that nuclear certainly has a far better, quote, renewable footprint than wind and solar, obviously. But there has been a concerted effort within DOE, and they've been focusing a lot of their energy on diverting from the climate, even though they say the reason they do it is to cut CO2 emissions. I'm not sure whether you have to go tongue in cheek to say, that's a dumb reason to do it, but at least they're doing it. And a lot of what's been going on has been focused within DOE in that area. And I think it's been a deflective move because, and I think there isn't the will to confront the near, just like the defund police and the rioting and Black Lives Matter, there's just a factor of not wanting to confront the noise and to stand out and just argue for argue's sake when you can't get anything accomplished. What I mentioned earlier is from people I've been talking to, they've been wanting to table this as long as with the endangerment finding and what to do going forward to get rid of CO2 as a pollutant, but they were waiting until after the election. And right now they're just reacting, as Tom said, to the COVID pandemic right now and the Black Lives Matter rioting issue. And I think that is correct. That's what I've heard from others here.
Tom was saying that the Republicans are not keen on this issue at the moment, but and so if that's the case, then you can't do anything until after the election. I don't see that there's a great urgency to get a definite push through, because the election is what? It's in about a month, right? So we'll know what that'll give you a measure of what can be done, depending on who gets in. But I was wondering whether it would be worthwhile to, if any of the Republicans are interested, to get someone into a questioning, like what Ted Cruz did with the president of the Sierra Club. I don't know if you saw the Q&A. He asked the president of the Sierra Club, what does he mean by the hiatus? The president of the Sierra Club didn't know. He turned to his representative behind him. The representative didn't know. The President Sierra Club kept emphasizing he will go with the 97%. He will go with the 97%, even though Ted Cruz said, if you find out that the evidence basically is against your position, the president kept repeating he will go with a 97%. Now, it's false that there's a 97%, but my point is, if you can get one of these guys on the stand, so to speak, and then just push them to the wall with, here are the facts, and you point out that they can't match it, or they contradict themselves, and publicize that. I don't know how it's done. I'm not a political person in that respects, but you push these guys to the wall. They're spinning pseudoscience, and the garbage won't stand up. They have a lot of voices, that's clear, that are pushing the dangerous global warming. But I'm wondering whether this is kind of a mitigating effect to push them up against the wall and let them open their mouths and sink their own ship, or at least pull some corks out of it.
I think there's so many variables right now. When you start pushing people against the wall, you talk about 10 different things in each one of them. The only thing to me that could be done right now, if somebody, the president did not a good job the other day in the debate when climate change came up. He could have hammered that if he'd have just had 4 or 5 facts, put it down, and closed it off. The only way I think at this stage of the political environment is somehow, and I don't know how in the world it would happen, somehow to get a simple message in the supporting information so the president could understand it and bring it in. It's going to come up in this following debates for sure. It's going to. So if that could happen, and I don't know how to get that to happen, it would take the NASA administrator or somebody, and even the NASA administrator, if he truly believed in it, which I think he does, I think he would have a hard time getting to the president with all of the stuff that he has going in his brain right now.
Tom, Ken Hopalon. I've been working on this for maybe 10 years, and ever since Trump's been in office. The problem, even a year ago, was the palace guard of the Trump administration didn't want to have this. And that is basically what Will Happer told me, who was in the White House. And I don't think anything's going to happen until after the election. Now, in terms of what we're doing, whoever wins, we're filing an amendment to our petition to the EPA that the engagement finding was based upon improper understanding of the science of greenhouse gas warming, and that improper understanding has been absolutely demonstrated by atmospheric measurements, both of temperature and the greenhouse effect. I would certainly appreciate if members of the Right Climate Stuff team will look at our stuff before we file it, probably in January. Again, whoever wins, because we're not going to get anything done before January, before the election. It's too short. And I'll let you go. Thank you.
One point I think that's important here is it's not just the presidential election itself. It's what happens in the House and the Senate. If the Republicans do take over both houses, they end up chairing all the committees. And then you can start, because in the Senate, you've got Senator Inouye, you've got Ron Johnson and others who have voiced very strong support on what we're trying to convey. In the House, I'm sure there are others as well.
The only other thing I'd say is let's don't wait till after the election. If there's somehow we could get a strong message, simple message, believable to President Trump, it would mean one hell of a lot.
Yeah, that's really why I've been busting my butt getting this series going, hoping something like this would come out of it. But also, with that simple statement, we also need to put a short sentence that says, and we can prove it. You know, empirical data.
Yeah, but the president can't say, and I can prove it.
He doesn't have to.
Right.
What we need is a statement that the president could say, just a one-liner, just like your two sentences there.
Okay.
And convince him, because he's not going to have time to prove it. He can say he's got a bunch of NASA.
Oh, no, yeah, I was suggesting that we indicate that it's our opinion is based on empirical data.
Yeah.
Alan says, in God we trust, others bring data.
I want to tell you one experience about the two-line message we're mentioning. How it's hammered home is useful, because I gave a talk at Plattsburgh some years back, and there was a guy from Columbia and another speaker. They were in the audience when I gave the talk, and I was presenting the case refuting the claims about dangerous global warming, and I was bringing up that certain issues, and they were saying, oh, well, that's not one of them said, all you're giving is basically platitudes. But the audience was sensitive to the way these guys are coming on, because I stood there, I said, you can show me where I made my mistake, but I'm standing my ground. Basically, that's in effect the way I came across. And the audience, I could see, were kind of annoyed at the fact that way these people are coming at me. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen to everyone who makes a firm stand, but a firm stand needs to be made just to let people know, well, that there's something very wrong over here about this dangerous global warming position.
What about the governor of Texas? Anyone got a back channel in to him? I think what Abbott does is heard a lot louder than what we have to say. My idea is to fire all the cannons that we can. We'll try to get the word to Trump. We'll try to get the word to Governor Abbott.
I think what somebody said a while ago was if they could get directly or indirectly to Larry Kudlow, even though he's not of the right scientific inclination to present to the president, you need somebody got the president's ear that like Larry Kudlow does, but I don't know who that would be. But it's a good start.
The other thing I think that may help is your ex-governor. What about Rick Perry? In support of it, but was constrained with all the political constraints that DOE provides with all their other missions, but that he was very much behind us. Does anybody have any direct link with him? I know he's retired now, but that would be another point of contact that I know Trump respected very highly.
Well, he's my Aggie buddy, but he doesn't have any idea that I am.
Or anybody, yeah. Well,